Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Penguin Echo here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today we are paying back our listeners for their faith and their support by playing the game that we said we'd play when we got 40 subscribers, which means we have started playing Mass Effect Andromeda. A game that should not be, that should not have been. That was not made better was made better through patching, but was not fixed. And joining me, as always, to discuss all things video games, one Pete Busby. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing pretty good. I actually have a pretty fun fact this week because things might get a little grim pretty soon. It's about reindeer, for
Hey!
the season. Yeah, exactly. So reindeer are actually the only mammals we know of that can change their eye color to go with the seasons. So during like the spring, it's more of like a goldish color. But as you get to the winter and there's basically like no more, well, it's basically all twilight all the time, it changes to a bluish color, a deep blue, to match the wavelengths of light. So they change their eye color so they can see better in the winter.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. Where does Rudolph fit in all this?
He's got his own problems.
And reindeers also change their noses?
Not that I'm aware of. But I mean, maybe that was like the legend. They were like, these reindeer change, and it somehow went from eyes to noses.
We can only hope. We are also joined, as always, by the Mistress of Games, M. Palladino. How are you doing, M?
Hello, Gino. I had fond memories of Mass Effect, and this has challenged that.
Excellent. That's what it's here for. We are also joined because this was a Patreon incentive, and this is surprise. This is an off the deep end regular main podcast crossover episode. So I am joined also by Chris Zombie Pie Redacted.
To show that I come here hat in hand and with an olive branch, I'm going to challenge myself to better blend in with the other main podcast people. I am challenging myself not to eat food. I can feel you getting on edge. I'm going to challenge myself to say an ism that is worse than communism. All right, got this. I got this. Oh, stretch out. I got it. Okay. Botulism.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's a good one.
You did it.
Though it does have applications for cosmetics, I guess. So that complicates things, but I think you're right. On the whole, botulism definitely worse.
Don't want
Racism.
botulism on the whole.
Racism?
No.
Racism.
No racism.
Yeah, that is worse.
Bad.
You're right.
Worse.
Look at you. You got two.
Two.
Look at you.
Did it.
We are also
Five.
we're also joined by the other co-host of Off the Deep End, Braden Arbitrary Water Redacted. Hello, Braden.
I have a simple motto. It's, we got this.
Yep.
I'm gonna kill you.
Shadowing.
How many times are we going to say this on the podcast?
Oh, as long as it's less than they say it in the game, I think we're good.
I don't think we got this.
Oh, before we discuss Mass Effect Andromeda, for normal housekeeping, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter. I'm going to replace that with Blue Sky. I'm going to remind myself I'm setting a note. Replace that. deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That is our email address. You could email into the show if you had questions or comments. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, which would allow you to join our Discord. We have our $1 tier, which is for getting the Discord access, and then you can shout at us and tell us that we're covering these games wrong, or you could say we're doing a good job. That'd be nice. Or at the $3 tier, you get access to the OG Soncast, our anime podcast that is co-hosted by Braden, Pete, and ZP.
Yeah, the OG Soncast is here.
Ooh.
Yeah,
We
we
got
got
a-
all of them.
We got a barn burner coming up. I don't know if Pete's seen it, but Braden and I have, and oh boy, we're gonna have a lot to talk about in the future.
What is the name of the show?
Garzy's Wing.
Another thing that says the title and or the same word more than it needs to.
Garzy's Wing. Okay, sure. That sounds like a show from Japan. Do we have anything on the Discord report, Em, that we need to report in on?
We watched that show that they're talking about. Boo-ba-doop-a-doop-a-doop, the Discord report also.
Did you guys already talk about how much you hated my sandwiches?
Yeah, I mentioned it on our Lost
episode.
podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I put out last week. We have another one that we've watched the episodes for. So if you are interested in seeing us talk about Lost, Harley and I are working our way through it.
Oh.
Lost
And
in the
if
sauce.
If
You're
anyone
you're
else
still
wants
positive
to watch it,
about Lost and where it's gonna possibly go.
I mean, I've seen where it goes, and
Harley hasn't.
Harley has not. I would not say I'm positive on it, but I know it goes places, and I would like to see where those places are once more.
Excellent.
Other than that, I think that's it.
Yeah, we watched Garzy's Wing on the Discord and got to watch along, and I think that's the main thing for sure. All right, this is going to take a bit because this is part 1 of Mass Effect Andromeda. Do I have a volunteer? Who wants to explain what Mass Effect Andromeda is? Raise your hand.
I would love to.
Okay, Braden. What's Mass Effect
Thank
Andromeda?
God.
Mass Effect Andromeda is the 4th installment of the beloved, fan-favorite Mass Effect series created by BioWare. This one was created by BioWare Montreal with support from BioWare Edmonton. It came out in 2017, I think.
Yep.
7 years ago. It is a third-person shooter role-playing video game.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Featuring open-world exploration and all of the
Definitely has that.
exciting technical advancements of EA's Frostbite engine.
Engine that has in no way, shape, or form a horrible dark history of hampering the studios that are forced to use it.
It also takes place in the Andromeda galaxy. You are Ryder. You're the Ryder.
The Pathfinder.
Pathfinder named Ryder. And you...
Because Sally Ride was the first woman in space.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Is that why?
And everyone
Yes.
hates you.
Everyone
hates you. You have to go... You've traveled 600 years in dark space to get to Andromeda so that you can colonize a new galaxy because you're space colonists. And wouldn't you know it, when your space colonizing ships got there, darn it, there's aliens. And you just need to get them out of your way so that you can build your colonies, because you've got people who are in stasis who need places to live. So you need to displace all of these natives.
But
That sounds
luckily,
about
there's
right.
only like 2 alien races, three. But there's like it's an entire galaxy, and it's only got like just a couple of races of people.
Got a couple of races
that's
of people
life.
that can space travel. There's all sorts of flora and fauna you just gun down.
Yeah.
We don't really know if it's sentient.
Gino, as someone who brought up the specter of feeling uncomfortable about Monster Hunter's depiction of interacting with flora and fauna, boy howdy, this game sure was fun for you, huh?
Yeah, I really enjoyed, especially in a universe where in the original Mass Effect games, the Hanar and the Elcor just look like some of the enemies that you just have to gun down. And most of them, the Hanar and the Elcor don't really talk like normal. So I could imagine that, some of these things are sentient.
Okay, so
that's a bummer.
real talk. I think that this is something. When I said this on the Giant Bomb Discord, someone asked me like, so everyone around round table this. How long did it take for you to play this game where it's like, oh, something is wrong with this? This is not the Mass Effect. How long did it take for you to really settle in that something is off? Like this is like the food is off.
Very
So we'll
quickly.
start with M.
Yes.
An hour?
Very, very quickly. I think maybe the first conversation you have with another person, something's just weird about the way conversations happen in this game. The people are uncanny whenever you are talking to them. The uncanny valley is real with this one. That
Yeah,
was the
like
first
lifeless
moment.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
They-
eyes are we're going to talk about how they've improved certain parts of the technical side of Andromeda's reputation. The thing that has not changed is the uncanny eyes, definitely. So,
Mhm.
Pete, when did it start to feel like something ain't right with this Mass Effect?
During a cutscene when Ryder's head started thrashing about wildly for no reason. It was pretty funny, actually. He said, "Yeah, I think I'm still not quite right," after his sand was implanted, and then his head started thrashing around. And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, you're not.
I do think something is off there.
Yeah, something seems off. I get it."
Just doing Silent Hill head
Mm.
Yeah,
all over the
basically.
place. Cool. Braden, how's about you? When did you know something was wrong?
When I played this video game in 2017.
How much was it
Mood.
wronger back then?
No, because by the time I played it, it had mostly been patched.
Okay.
I got the game for $20 at a GameStop
What a steal.
about 3 months after it came out.
Oof.
Mm.
Oofa
Mm.
doofa. That's a precipitous drop. For me, I would say within the first 5 minutes, something felt wrong the moment I started controlling Gumdrop Rider, which was my character's name. She didn't.
Gumdrop?
Yeah, that's what I named
Okay.
her. I just started typing, and then my PlayStation did autocomplete, so I just started like picking letters and then going with the first word that came up. That was funny. Gumdrop came up for some reason. I just went with that.
Okay. Yeah.
About 5 minutes into the game, just controlling it and how everything moved and looked seemed wrong. But I want to say within the first 20 minutes, I got into a conversation with someone, and the camera just did not have me or the person I was talking to on screen.
Is that important to you, Gino, that the camera do that?
You want to see the people that you're talking to? The horrible, horrible people?
I do.
I'm sorry, my
do.
face is just tired from everything.
I do, but you know, the thing about it was, on top of them not being in frame, because the camera was further away from them than it should have been, I also couldn't hear them. So it was just subtitles of conversation that I couldn't see or hear. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. I don't know how the camera got stuck this way. I don't know how this was, like, maybe it's stuck on a wall or something. There was another time where I warped through a wall because I had a weapon that does a little teleport. Like I got a melee weapon that does a little teleport. And I accidentally warped into an elevator that I needed to trigger an event to have it open, but instead I warped into it. So that seemed bad.
It's so easy to get in those situations in this game.
Oh yes, I also entered a conversation and then got stuck on geometry and had to enter a conversation again to escape the geometry. And all of this was in the first hour of playing
That's
the game, maybe
impressive.
2. It was amazing. Like the first few hours of this game, every moment you spend talking or moving around in a space, which I would say, show of hands, like Braden, would you say the
Yeah.
best part of Mass Effect is generally when you're walking around talking to people?
On occasion, yes.
In previous games.
Yes. In the video game Mass Effect and the video game Mass Effect 2, and
I-
occasionally some parts of the video game Mass Effect 3.
I sometimes like the combat arenas that you're thrust
Yeah.
upon, especially when they're like unique locations that you basically are here to be taken to task and you have to kind of like just figure things out. There's that tropical planet in 1. There's that first time you go into the alien spaceship in 2. There's the first time you land on Earth in 3. Like there are iconic set pieces. It feels like a very set piece derived game where it's about going from one sequence to the next and then occasionally doing things in between. For me, because I'm more of like someone who, I'll be very honest, I play Mass Effect games not necessarily primarily for the mechanics, but I like how they play and control.
Sure.
And for me, things felt off a little bit later than the rest of you. About hour 1 to 2, when essentially the game says, here's the world, right? That moment where it's like, here you are, you landed. Here you go. Go out there. And then I realized that the next waypoint, it was the moment that also the game broke for me when I first played it back in the day. Similar to Braden, this is actually my second Andromeda rodeo. And then the waypoint is pretty far away from where you start when you get your first real mission. And then you realize you got to use that Nomad or the vehicle, and you got to drive it over there. And it's a whole lot of nothing.
Brutal.
You just got to drive it. You don't get attacked a lot. There's not a lot of like character dialogue. You're just driving in this big, empty, bland, desert Mars-looking planet.
The
and
timer.
Nothing fucking happens.
Okay, but consider this. It's basically like everyone's favorite part of Mass Effect 1, where you went on those big, empty planets that had nothing on them, and then went to 2 points of interest.
Yeah, people like that.
Well, okay, but
Am I being sarcastic? It's called sarcasm.
Yes, I'm also being sarcastic.
I
I'm
don't
not
remember
being
that.
sarcastic, but
I
my
can
brain
squint-
hurts.
I can squint my eyes and understand why those vehicle sequences were put into Mass Effect 1 back in the day, because
Because they didn't know better.
They didn't know better, and B, like, that's just, vehicle sequences were a crutch. Braden, you have a wheel of dubious first-person shooters where time to turret was a pretty
Yes.
big thing.
Yes,
So-
one of my running jokes when I was doing the FPS streams was time to turret sequence.
So
In the
vehicles-
tradition of Eric Wolpaw's time to crate.
vehicles traditionally have provided variety to the standard gameplay that is set by the game. So that part, totally get it. But both that and the probes in 2 were like so universally derided that the fact that some of that is here in this game boggles my mind.
In some ways, it's the biggest part of the game. So what I was getting at earlier about how it feels to walk around and talk to people, like the best parts, some of my favorite parts of Mass Effects 1, 2, and 3 is walking around the Citadel, walking around the Normandy, talking to characters, getting their opinions. And one thing that makes it easy to know who to talk to and when you're on the Normandy is that they have a room and they fucking stay there most of the time. When you need to talk to them, they're in their room. The Normandy's pretty small. It's pretty easy to tell where everyone's supposed to be. The ship in this game, the Tempest, people just like get up and wander around. And I don't know where they are a lot of the time. I shouldn't have to open my map on my little hub world. It's very annoying. It also leads to occasions where just like I was trying to talk to an NPC. I was trying to talk to Liam Costa, and he just walked through a wall.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't talk to him.
Goodbye.
His triangle button was outside of the geometry.
Because, he's like, hey, Ryder, what's up, bruv?
Yeah, and he just waddled out of the world. So I find that very annoying. I find the scanning very annoying. I find the fact that every dialogue just is awful. Like, there's no more Renegade. There's no more Paragon. Cool, fine. But instead, they've replaced it with no choices that I can tell matter hardly at all.
Well, to a degree, it felt like they were starting to get away from that. In Dragon Age, especially, where it's like, Braden, we've talked about this before. Dragon Age kind of like decoupled good, evil, bad to like, oh, this is alignment option A, option B, option C. One of those options is always, what if you were a sarcastic asshole? And that's basically what they did here, is like, you're always going to end up in the same end destination with however you treat people with dialogue sequences. It's just a matter of what amount of enthusiasm you're going to do it with, which to an extent is how Mass Effect has always been. You're always going to do the duty of saving the universe from a bunch of bad alien shit. It's a matter of how excited you are.
Sure, but I would say
how many people you piss off.
I would say in this one, you are picking which J.J. Abrams line you want to give.
There's some for me, it was more like Joss Whedon dialogue because of how like twee some of these characters are.
Yeah, I think we're getting at the same thing here.
Yep.
In terms of the dialogue.
Hey, when
good.
Mass Effect came out in 2007, the Marvel Cinematic Universe had not yet been established.
That's true. But it was here, and it was it's very clear that it was the dominant writing style at the time. And it doesn't age well. Also, there's too much dialogue with characters that don't matter. The dialogue you have with your main party also kind of sucks. Did you find... Okay, there's the Uncanny Valley stuff with the dialogue and the movement and all that stuff. How did you find the combat? Shooting of the guns. Did it feel okay to you or wrong, Pete?
The shooting of the guns felt fine. I mean, so like the big shift is basically cover mechanics. Like you're less covered, you're more mobile. It felt good, but to be perfectly frank, I don't remember any of the other Mass Effect games. So what do I know?
M, did you find only having 3 powers to be limiting?
I mean, compared to the other Mass Effects where you just had like a whole kit that you could pick from, and also all of your companions had some powers that you could use, I would say it was limiting, but also usually the least interesting part of a Mass Effect is the actual shooting of the guns. And I would say in this one, it's probably the least egregious aspect of it. So, you know.
ZP, you said you play these games kind of for the mechanics. Did the shooting of the guns do anything for you?
Like, I will always say, like, I'm going to say something that I know is not popular here. Mass Effect kind of stopped being a true, authentic RPG starting at 2.
That's not unpopular. That's
It's not
true.
That's just true.
And also, that was when it started to get good.
I don't know. I kind of liked managing, like, I liked the characters having just cosmetic armor switches. Was managing that stuff bad? Sure was. But like in 2 you have like only 3 upgrades for every move you have in the game. So it being even more simplified here just feels like a normal trajectory for the series considering where it was. It's a floaty third-person shooter. It's kind of been a floaty third-person shooter
the
since
shooting
2.
part of this game is generally acceptable.
Yes, that's that's how I would describe it as well.
And hey, unsurprisingly, this was the thing they had locked in first was the movement and shooting. You're pretty mobile. You have a quick dash, regardless of what class you pick. You have 3 active abilities. The guns feel pretty good. We'll talk about the itemization and the choices they have made with their even more limited RPG mechanics.
Yeah,
Isn't
so
this what
let's
the
Yeah.
isn't this what the engine was for? Was
yes.
first person
Shooting.
shooters?
Yeah.
Yes, was for Battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's why it feels good.
so
Or not bad.
let's talk about that crafting limited RPG mechanics because the shooting, it's fine. Like it's a-okay. The enemies, I mean, it in some ways this game's combat feels very, very boilerplate. It feels like it came with the engine and they lightly modified it. I don't. They added a few Mass Effect abilities to it. I don't think any of it's especially distinctive. I have not bothered unlocking a bunch of powers because it doesn't feel like they matter all that much.
No, you just max out the 3 active powers you're using,
Yeah.
and then whatever guns you're using.
Yep, and that's what I'm doing. So that's a bummer. Like, there's really no reason to diversify your character at all. Like the RPG mechanics are as stripped down as possible. You are probably just maxing out the guns. You're maxing out your base stats. You're maxing out the passives that just improve your biotics or tech or guns. Whichever you're choosing to use. And then there's like a system where you can get further bonuses for your playstyle depending on which powers you're unlocking. But guess what? You're going to use the playstyle adaptations for the thing you were already doing. So that also just kind of self-propagates. But the crafting system, though, Aiden, why? Why crafting? Why this?
So crafting is a great way to make your video game last longer because you have tied progression to the acquisition of materials the player has to find and seek out.
Bless you.
Do you have any critiques or any depth to add to that summation of why crafting?
Why crafting? Because this was a game that came out in a time when if you didn't have a crafting system, everyone would go on Reddit and be like, "Why is there no crafting system?"
Yeah.
As far as the actual crafting goes, you remember in Mass Effect 2 when you had to like scan planets? Okay, well, you're Pete, you're excused.
Thank you.
You remember in Mass Effect 2 where you had to like fire things at planets and then you would scan them and everyone
And Edie would go probe launched.
probe launched and then you would sit there for like way longer than it seemed like you needed to and then eventually it would be like you got element 0. What if you had to do that and also do it while you were driving around?
Wow,
And
sounds like
that sounds
hell.
really fun.
that sounds awful, doesn't it? Yeah, so there's like that whole like little line bar graph thingy on the side that will tell you where good spots are to dig for resources. And then you fire a probe and then you get some resources, I guess. And there's no way of telling what you're getting or where to like go for certain types of materials. You just have to stumble across them. And it's ass.
And then you can make your guns marginally better.
Yeah,
or make the better
you can
guns
make
that you
numbers
wanted
go
in the
up.
first place.
It's
Mhm.
honestly the part of the game that feels the most informed and colored by destiny, to be very honest. Like, this is when all sci-fi shooters for, I would say, 5 to 6 years were kind of like, oh wait, we can have the shared or the big open world stuff with RPG mechanics in our future shooter, and it's gonna have crafting where you have to like grind. It's like the one part of this game that feels like it was partially pulled from an RPG playbook because everything else is just not.
And it plays bad
Yeah.
because the way you acquire resources are there's so many different leveling schemes in this game. Pete, try to off the top of your head name
God.
all of the different things that you need to keep track of.
Okay.
terms of
Ways you
experience.
can progress. You
Yes.
can become like better templates or whatever they call them, like your soldier, your adept, or what have you. You can upgrade your settlements. So if you have like more people settling things, you know, you can get more resources. So you can go to the ship and build stuff. You can craft your weapons. Oh God.
Level yourself up. All your characters level up.
You can level you. You can level up your peoples. There have to be others too. There's like a ship thing too.
There's planet level viability. For every planet you can settle. There is viability of the galaxy as a whole. Leveling up the viability of the galaxy as a whole allows you to unlock frozen people in your ship, and they give you passive bonuses that like give you more resources. You can get research points of 3 different buckets so that you can unlock research, so that you can research new guns, and guns vary from level 1 to level 5, and you need to unlock all 5 levels of the gun if you want the best version of the gun. And to what Braden said, there's augments and shit that you can unlock that marginally improve your guns further. You can or cannot use if you choose to. There's blueprints you have to unlock. There's like 10 different forms of progression, and I cannot emphasize this enough. None of them feel good or feel meaningful.
Yeah,
they all suck.
To Mass Effect 2's, benefit, the fact that there are, for every gun type, there are only like 4 guns. When you do get those upgrades and you move from one to the next, it feels actionably better or advantageous to explore the next step up. Whereas here, I can see the numbers going up, but I really have to like squint as to like, is this battle actually getting going? Is like my encounter here, is it getting easier?
Nope.
And the only real time when you start to really interact with some of these grindy mechanics is when you start doing missions and you realize that you just got a bunk-ass gun that you gotta toss. But the game's pretty generous in dropping stuff in front of you that works well for the missions that you're doing. So it's like too much. It's got
but also
too much.
The game does not let you try weapons before you craft them. So you could spend all of these resources on, I don't know, an SMG because you make bad life choices. And then you get it, and it's, even the tier 5 SMG is still kind of bad.
Yeah, and the resources you would need to craft that SMG in the first place are finite and difficult to come by in some cases.
I think the way Mass Effect 2 handled weapons was, in retrospect, maybe not great, but this game gives you more options, and it doesn't let you try any of them.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the fact that the resources are finite. But they are. That's
functionally.
Just...
unless you want to grind out platinum or some of the harder to find elements, like you don't want to do it. It takes a long time. Like you get some of these items every hour of playtime. Like they give you influxes. That's the most effective way to get access to some of these resources. And that's just, it's all a time suck. And the game also sucks. So you're stuck in here trying to make a marginal improvement to your gun, playing a game full of empty space that you're driving your car in, and the game itself is a buggy mess where I had a mission that wouldn't end because I needed to talk to someone, but the game considered me in combat because there was an enemy that had spawned inside of geometry, and so I could not leave combat, which meant I couldn't talk to the person to end the mission. And that sort of stuff happens all the time. Just constantly in this game. Something buggy or bad is happening. And so you're left with this experience, and any of you tell me if I'm wrong here, where you constantly feel where the money didn't go and where the polish isn't, and they put a bunch of resources in to waste your time or to occupy you, but
it's not
none of it's
necessarily that the game didn't have money. This game.
Please explain this history.
So this is, again, I'm pulling a lot from the Schreier article we cited when we did during Anthem, right, Braden? Because they briefly talked
because
about
he did a "How did this happen" article for Mass Effect Andromeda, and then 2 years later he did a "How did this happen" article for Anthem.
the long story short is that after the debacle that was Mass Effect 3, people who were creative leaders for Mass Effect felt so burned, most notably Casey Hudson, that a lot of the senior leadership of the series just left. And it was a pretty big exodus of BioWare staff members. Yet, the money train don't stop, and so they announce after Mass Effect 3, not necessarily shortly thereafter, but eventually they do a teaser trailer for Mass Effect, and it is Mass Effect Andromeda. We're going to a different galaxy. Partially because they didn't want to address the conclusion of Mass Effect 3, so they wanted to just walk. How do we make Mass Effect without canonically setting a canon for 3? Let's go to a different galaxy, I guess. Cowards. But all of the people who worked on those previous games, or not all of them, a good portion of the people who worked on those previous games are gone. Though this is the weird period, and I think Braden might know this also. Casey Hudson leaves, then comes back, works on this game, and I think Anthem, and then leaves again before either game finished.
He came back as the CEO.
Ah, right. So he was leading BioWare entirely, and then left to do his own independent studio, which only recently last month filed for bankruptcy. So this is the dark times. This is also the time when Dragon Age Direwolf was a goddamn disaster that they had to put on the back burner after announcing it, and then they had to retitle it to Veilguard just a couple years ago, and then that game actually turned out all right.
They retitled it to Veilguard this year.
Yeah. So
Also, it was Dreadwolf.
So we have the team working on Andromeda, Anthem, Dragon Age. 3 big projects, all of which, primarily this is due to the Frostbite engine, are on fire. Literally on. Things are not working. The technology is not
on fire.
It's not a good time to be a BioWare developer or Q&A tester. And Andromeda, really, there's a lot of fingers to point with Anthem, and we talked about those during our Off the Deep End episode. Going back to the Schreier article, it really does feel like the Frostbite engine is what screwed this game up. Very much so. Because they had their own custom engine. It seems like now, looking at Veilguard, maybe just programming these games in Unreal was the call all along, but the Frostbite engine really did BioWare dirty.
Yeah, so this was a game, the Frostbite engine, like you said, it was designed for Battlefield. It was designed for large worlds with a lot of combatants. That's what it was kind of scaled for. It's very pretty, but it's largely built for staring in a first-person perspective at things from medium distance to long distance and shooting at them. Not for having people right up in your face with the cameras on them talking and animating. And every time you have to look at a character, the facial animations are bad. I should say, they don't seem to animate well. The motion capture, whatever they're doing, it all feels wrong. And the worlds, man, the lighting's pretty. Some of the environments I think are very pretty. The shooting is fine. But anything that, made Mass Effect something more than just a third-person shooter has been mangled in the translation here.
Yeah, and Mass Effect and RPG projects at BioWare are not the only victims of Frostbite. Madden and FIFA also going through a bad time trying to make this first-person shooter engine work for their systems too. So it's bad for everyone in EA.
And this is why EA doesn't really make games that aren't Madden or FIFA anymore. No?
There's a reason why they're letting their studios use Unreal.
Mm-hmm.
that Dead Space remake was Unreal 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, should we turn our attention to the story as it exists?
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you know how far are we going to cover this game for this episode?
We're going to cover the first planet, Eos, and the second planet that I went to, Vold, ice planet. The ice planet. Those two planets. We will cover Havarl until I assume the end of the game because God, I can't imagine this game goes on that long. Please don't go on that long. So that's what we're covering. So who picked female writer? I did. Did anyone else?
Surprisingly, I did not.
What?
Yeah, I
Uproar.
didn't care. I did not care enough this time
I-
to
I-
make a
I
custom
honest-
character.
I honestly think that the male character actually his facial expressions break less than the female character because it seems like the engine is not designed for
No.
her.
No, for some reason, female writer, despite both generic, both default writers being based on, face scanned actors, female writer's face, there's something wrong with it.
Well, Gumdrop Rider, who I made, she looks so weird that the facial animations being wrong don't seem to matter to her.
I just went with default Scott Ryder because I did not want to spend any more time playing this game than I needed to.
Well, I went in with an open mind, so
I made John Ryder, and I think I hit random on the character creator a few times.
that makes sense. Pete, did you also go with Scott Ryder?
Yeah, I was Dude Rider.
Did you keep his generic normal man face?
Yeah, why was I going to mess with it? What do I care?
Good point. So we've got our plucky group. You start out with your human companions, Cora Harper, who's an Asari commando, and Liam Costa, who is a gun boy.
Hey, bruv.
Yep, that's how he talks. They're both fine.
No, they aren't.
No, they're not. They're not.
What don't you like about them, Brayden?
Okay, so every Mass Effect, every Mass Effect game starts you with 2 human party members, right? That's how, they introduce you to the setting. They kind of start you with the familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, all video games, all RPGs need a Karth. They need a normal, boring guy to be normal and boring in order to make all of the exciting and exotic aliens that much more interesting by comparison. And Liam is the Karth of this game in that, as far as I can tell, his only personality trait is vaguely British.
He's also a cop, and his family.
And also he's a cop.
He was a
And
cop.
she's like, "Hey man, I brought me a car."
Wait, which one? Are Karth the bug-looking dudes?
No, Karth is the he's the whiny piss baby man in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, okay.
Who has trust issues, and if you're a lady, he just flirts with you constantly.
Yeah, and that's Cora and Liam are two of the straight characters also
Yes.
in terms of
And
romance.
then Cora, boy howdy.
What's your problem with Cora?
Okay, well, you can back me up on this.
Yeah.
A woman with that haircut should not be a hetero-only romance.
True, but also
She's
Cora
a
is-
weeb.
Cora is she thinks because she was in like a Asari assault squad that makes her an Asari, which is like, no, you are just a human woman who has some like military training. I've got thoughts on Cora.
Yeah, listen, she is the equivalent of the kid who went on a study abroad to Japan and now uses honorifics in his daily speech.
Yeah, and she
also
just won't
talks about
shut
how
up.
good he is with a blade.
She just
And how
won't
much
shut
better
up
he is than you. And he
about
won't shut
tea
up.
ceremonies. He just
Yeah.
let me tell you about tea ceremonies. Yukata.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of how Korra is, and she also dislikes you because your father is the head of. He's the Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Pete, what's the Pathfinder?
Oh God, Gina, you've asked a very loaded question. Maybe you don't realize it. The Pathfinder is basically just the person who gets an AI implant, and once you have that AI implant, you can then find your future planet, more or less. But you know, like the line in Avengers where Tony Stark's talking to Captain America, and he's more or less says like, "The only thing that makes you interesting came out of a box." That's more or less the Pathfinder.
Yeah.
You have authority and are the protagonist because you're a nepo baby.
Yeah. Because your father was supposed to be the protagonist, then he got his shit kicked,
Yeah.
and now you need to do it instead.
They could only afford Clancy Brown for one day.
Did a good job though.
Yeah. Hey, he's Clancy Brown. He's a professional.
Yeah, as far as voice in this game, did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Did I
and
pick up speaking of voices, did I pick up a Kunail Nanjiani somewhere in there?
Yes,
You
yes.
did.
He's the Solarian in the Not Citadel.
Nittadel.
Death.
And Korra was supposed to be the backup Pathfinder, but your dad's like, "Nah, you're my kid though." So she's not happy
She's
about
a little
the
peeved,
fact.
let's say, about that whole situation, huh?
Yeah, she doesn't
But then
seem to
again,
like it.
you know what? Fuck Korra. She's the kid that comes to school wearing a suit and will talk to you about libertarianism. Which was
Damn.
Damn,
I know.
meanest thing you could have said about her.
You're right, though.
Yeah, Drac. Tell me about not Rex.
That was what I was gonna say.
So Braden and I have a joke that every BioWare game needs to have the Canderous Ordo character.
Yeah.
And for the Mass Effect franchise, it's always been Rex
Krogan.
stand-ins, which is
Yeah.
big buff dude or big buff person that just has the big gun and then does the suppressive fire thing in case you
And is tough
decided-
and morally dubious.
Tough and morally dubious. Mechanically, this is a character that is kind of a necessity if you picked a wizard, or whatever you want to call a wizard in Mass Effect. Because you need to have guns. You really need to have guns. We kind of danced around it. Not only are there fewer upgrades for the magic, they are the buggiest part of the combat system. Because if you're trying to do things like I was, like the Vanguard, like fly to the other side of the map and then punch people with your little sword thing. I glitched out so many times doing that move and like being stuck into geometry or being teleported somewhere where I was not supposed to be. So you're really just safe sticking with guns. But how did they make the not Rex character interesting?
Covered in bones.
It
Yeah,
didn't?
bones. Nice
He's
thing
a
about-
grandpa.
Yeah, he's old. The nice thing about the alien characters, other than PB, is their eyes are less messed up than the rest of the characters that are not PB or humans.
Speaking of PB, the coldest, deadest eyes award goes to PB.
She's also the worst.
OMG, she's so quirky.
Oh, God.
So this was after Dragon Age Inquisition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So they had already made Sarah, who
Yeah.
was kind of their like quirky, this short like.
This character type started with Meryl. Like, there's no dancing around it.
I would say Meryl is a precursor, but maybe not in the same vein.
The difference is like Sarah and PB are a lot more aggressive with how much quirk is in your face at any given moment, whereas Meryl hides her quirk behind how Welsh she is.
Yeah. I'll abstain from that because my wife is in the room and really likes Meryl, so I'm gonna not mention.
It's fine.
Yes. Uh, they
Oh,
want me
what's
to
wrong
tell
with
you
PB?
bad and wrong takes. PB is a Asari. She is she like a anthropologist or something.
She's
Some sort of
Liara. She's
scientist.
an anthropologist who's studying
Yeah.
a long dead society.
Yeah.
And she's really into you because you know how to interface with that society in a way that she can't.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you know
Yep.
it? She's young for an Asari, also.
Yeah,
And she's
she's only
kind
like
of an
100.
outcast, kind of an iconoclast.
And she's
Kind
horny
of,
and doesn't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Aren't we all?
Mm.
Go ahead, Em. I'm sorry
So-
I interrupted you.
No, I was gonna agree with all of that. PB is like if Sarah just had blue skin. If you made Sarah into an alien, that's PB. She's not as bad as some of the other characters. I think personally, but also she's very grating.
She
Yeah,
is.
she's even. Yeah, you know what? I take it back. She's not the worst character because Suvi exists.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
if there's a character that gets under my nerve, Jesus fucking Christ. But PB just the way that PB is like arbitrarily used to inject the most twee,
Mhm.
artificial whimsy and upbeat character tropes. Just oh my god. Like that you get emails from your characters, right?
You do.
Yeah,
And
which they
every
just call
single
email,
time.
by the way.
Yeah.
That drives me
Yeah.
nuts. Like, give it some dumb sci-fi name. I don't care what you call it.
But-
Drac
email,
sends you a bunch
whatever.
of pictures of guns that are blurry and have
Yeah,
watermarks.
he has watermarks on his. But I
That's so
found
funny.
one from PB, and I just want to read this little bit of it. Writer. Okay, so like just for fun, I decided I'd blast the remnant data core with energy to see what that would do. First, use the battery off the Nomad. Don't tell Gil. Haha. Wink. Nothing happened. Bummer. Then a Mass Effect field biotics, thanks to Korra. Wink, wink. Still nothing. And then I took it to Jal and made him do his bioelectricity thing. Jackpot. It's like, fuck.
All right, I found this email and you are editorializing.
A little bit. But like that's how they're trying to have PBB.
She's high
Like,
energy. She's
She's
quirky.
high energy.
She's
and
Zoe
it's just-
Deschanel.
Mhm.
It's too much. Especially when you have other characters that also feel they feel off.
I mean, all of these. Is there a character who you could not describe as bootleg blank? A character from another Mass Effect game. Korra is kind of bootleg Miranda. Liam is Kaiden Alenko bootleg. Though Korra also could be bootleg Ashley.
Yep.
Drac is 100% bootleg Rex or bootleg Grunt, both of whom are just the same character, except Rex is better.
Don't be mean to my boy.
Grunt's a
Which
fine
one?
character.
Grunt's a fine lad.
Grunt's fine.
That's my
He's fine.
son.
He's
Like
better than
his big final mission is actually has more grit and character than anything that we played in this game.
Oh, of course. I'm just saying, Drac is like the two other Krogan characters, but worse. PB is kind of Liara, but worse. Then we get Vetra Nix, who is a space. She's a Turian. You've got a lady Turian on your ship.
Yeah. And she's not a soldier. She's kind of like a smuggler, and she didn't really fit in. But also, and she's one of the more tolerable characters.
Yeah, she's
Yes, she
actually
is.
one of the better characters in the game because it's like, what if Garrus, but a rogue? It's like, oh shit! Word?
Dang.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I needed to leave. I needed to leave the galaxy.
I don't
no
want to talk
reason.
about it unless
Also,
you want to bone me.
I got a kid sister, and I gotta make money for her.
Yeah, so instead of being a rogue where you do vigilante murders like Garrus, she's a rogue who steals for Robin Hood style for her sister. And then there's the sixth playable character who is a new race the Angara, that is Jal.
Mm.
I would say Jal is like, who's the Drell character? What's his name?
Oh,
Oh, right. He has cancer or some shit.
Yeah, he's
oh,
got
Thrall,
shit,
not
what's-
Thrall.
Thane.
Thing.
Thane.
Thane
Mhm.
Krios. He's a lot like Thane in that he's very empathetic and feels a lot of powerful emotions. Except Thane, I think, is
The-
kind of cooler.
I
I-
also just. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that Jal is close to Javik in Mass Effect 3, but in the sense of like just being an alien who doesn't understand anything about you.
Yep.
Because the Angara are the ones who are from this Andromeda galaxy, and Jal is a less racist version of Javik.
Javik.
Yeah, but Javik's fun because he's a piece of shit.
He is.
Mhm.
He's
love it.
just all of his interactions with Liara are so good.
Yeah.
Whereas
Jal is like if Javik didn't do anything outside of.
I think in general, I also just think the Angara and the Ket are just like the most C tier rubbery 1990s TV sci-fi looking motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In a way
is-
that Mass Effect, the older Mass Effects, kind of avoided.
Which is a problem because they're the only aliens here that are
Yeah,
new.
yeah.
Mhm.
Also, there are no Quarians or Hanar or Volus
'Cause
or
they're on the other
Elcor or
ship
any of the
that didn't
fun,
get here.
because their
No,
arc
they're not here
got
yet.
lost in space, and you'll have to
Oh.
rescue them in the DLC that never came out.
I know that people complain about Mass Effect 1 having you fight the same like 3 or 4 Geth types over and over again, and then they kind of do the same thing in Mass Effect 2 in that you're fighting the same collectors over and over again. But Jesus Christ, you fight the same cat, and there's just not enough variety to how big the world and environments are. And essentially, you are in a new quadrant to a galaxy that has been unexplored yet, right? And the sense of exploration and the rewards for your exploration just feel so bleh.
Yeah. And then there's the other people on your ship who I don't like any of them. You've got Suvi Anwar, who is she's a co-pilot. She's a scientist, but she's also religious. You've got Gil Brody, who is
Oh God.
he's a gay gambler.
Gil's
God.
subplot, which maybe we'll talk about that next time,
Yeah.
is one of the more baffling pieces of writing.
Yeah.
Just yep.
You've got
So
Callow
there's
Jaff,
Callow.
who's he's a what is the race again?
Solarian.
He's a
Valerian.
Solarian, and he is he's a Solarian. He's like all the other Solarians. He talks fast and is science.
You have your brother and or sister, depending on who you chose.
Ah, yes.
And there's
Eventually.
Dr. Lexi T. Perro, who is the ship's doctor, who's another.
For my version of the game, I felt like she had the worst dead eyes of all of the characters. Like she was at times, she felt like she was even worse than Peebee.
Okay, what if I told you that in the original Mass Effect trilogy, there were several different Asari faces, and then Liara and some of the other unique characters, they had unique faces. In the video game Mass Effect Andromeda, all of the Asari have the exact same face except Peebee.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. That is. Yep. And the only difference is which
me.
face tattoos they put on them.
Yep.
Yeah. So Dr. Lexi, she looks very generic. I assume she's got a story. Maybe I'll find out what it is someday, but not yet. So you start out in this game. You go to a world. You have first contact with the Ket. You're told not to, start your first encounter with an alien race with violence. But then you have to shoot them to death because you have no choice. just immediately. Your dad, who's the Pathfinder, saves you from a Ket attack, and in the process, your mask gets damaged, so you can't breathe because the atmosphere is not breathable, and he gives you his mask so that you live and he suffocates to death. You get the AI Sam. Did anyone enjoy Sam the AI?
No.
No.
Again,
What is
That's correct.
What does it
it's
stand
a
for?
Something
Stands for
artificial.
nothing.
again a character who
It's
feels like a
something.
cheap stand-in for a superior character from previous games.
Yeah, it wishes it was Edie. I'm gonna look up what Sam stands for, but yeah, it's okay. Simulated Adaptive Matrix, Sam.
Dumb.
Yep, bad. So you get the robot in your head, and we didn't say this during the gameplay part, but Sam telling you about when you've stepped into radiation or when it's cold outside
Yeah.
every 5 seconds is insufferable because almost
That's
all of
what
these
I was
planets
gonna say.
are dangerous and will kill
You
you if you stay outside for too long.
you are on the frozen planet, and Sam is constantly telling you, "Hey, it's cold outside. I know. We're surrounded by ice and snow.
And
Thanks,
then
Sam."
you step near a heater, and he's like, "And now it's warm." And it's like, "Oh wow, Sam, thank goodness."
What would I have done without you, Sam?
Yeah, so he's the reason you can scan a bajillion things, and he'll
Can
tell
we
you
talk?
stuff.
Hold on. Can we
Yes.
talk about the scanning?
Yeah, please
Oh,
do.
please. I'm glad
The
somebody
s-
finally brought it up.
The scanning. So you remember in
Metroid
Metroid Prime when you
Yeah,
had to
Mhm.
scan things?
the only game
What
where that was ever good.
Yeah,
I
what
know.
if you had to do that on fucking everything and it was annoying as shit and it sucked ass and you got nothing for it?
Tell me more.
I mean,
Does that sound compelling to you?
yeah, like say what you will about sending probes on planets in Mass Effect 2, but the stuff that you got actually had an impact. And in some cases,
Mhm.
as annoying as it was to get the good ending because you needed those ship upgrades, like it led to something. Like you knew what the light at the end of the tunnel was with this mechanic. Not with this.
Yep. The scanning is 100% necessary in order to progress some quests, just because there's like
Stuff to
they
scan.
didn't there's stuff to scan. They didn't have anything else for you to do, so you just had to interact with scannable things. And then you scan it and it just goes, "All right, quest complete. Good job. You did
You
it.
scanned it.
You scanned it. You found it." Terrible. It's the fucking worst. And this isn't even I had times when I would have to scan something and I would be like, where the fuck is it? There was one point where there was like, I was on the ice planet. Yeah, it was like a field of ice and it was like, scan something underneath the ice. And I was looking around for it and I couldn't find it. And finally I went and I Googled it and people were like, yeah, if you can't find the thing, save, go back to the main menu and reload, and then the thing will be there. And that's how I had to complete that quest. It's just not functional.
Yep, it's bad. It's bad. The highlighting is bad. The distance that you have to be from something in order to scan it sucks. The fact that you can get attacked while you're scanning sucks. The fact that sometimes the scanning just doesn't work, even though something is red, it just won't scan. It's all bad. It combines the bugginess with uninteresting gameplay, even if it worked.
Yes. Another one of my favorite things would be when you have to scan something and oh shit, what was it? Hold on. I know this. It was so annoying and I had to bring it up and now
Was
I
it mines?
no.
I had to scan
Well,
mines for a while, and that sucked.
yeah, that was awful. When you had to scan something and it was like a dead body, and then the body despawned in front of me while I was like bringing my scanning thing up. This happened constantly. So
Just
annoying.
despawn immediately to preserve
Yep.
resources.
Yep.
So yeah, that all sucks. So you get the scanner, you get the AI in your brain. Your brother or sister, whichever character you did not pick, is in a medically induced coma because their wake up process didn't go right. You end up on the not Nexus, or is it the Nexus? Sorry, the not Citadel, which is the
It is the
Nexus.
Nexus.
It turns out that the people who've gotten to Andromeda they have been there for like a year and they haven't figured anything out. They haven't gotten anything terraformed because all the planets you thought were good are not as good as you thought. There's been rebellions. There is a leadership group that is doing a bad job, but it's okay because the Pathfinder's here now and you're going to make it all okay. So they send you to Eos, which is a desert planet full of nothing and radiation. You get to terraform it by finding out that your AI powers allow you to interface with a thing called the Remnant. I didn't tell you about the Forerunners. I mean, sorry, the Remnant.
Ancient aliens exist when you want to put old technology or ancient ruins in your video game. And so the Remnant, they made these ancient constructs. You don't know why. You never will know why, because they're never going to make a sequel to this. And these ancient devices are messing with the terraforming of these planets, making them uninhabitable. Also, you fight their robots. You fight robots.
Yeah, they're basically Halo robots.
Yeah. So speaking of basically Halo, ZP, tell me about the Ket. I mean the Covenant. I mean the Ket.
They are. I guess you fight the Remnant first, and then the Ket come out later.
The other way around. You fight the Ket first.
Okay, you're right. It's the Ket first, and then the Remnant. So the Ket are led by what you assume is a charismatic leader.
The Arbiter. I mean the Archon.
Archon, and the Ket are your usual horned dragon-like alien people, and they're bipedal humanoids, which is, every alien race here seems to be a bipedal humanoid. They're warlike and highly militaristic. Tell me if you've heard that one before, or may have.
Also, religious zealots.
They're religious zealots, and they don't believe to use. They don't like using gendered pronouns, and instead default to it and they, which I guess is the way that they make it seem like they're a pseudo hive mind of sorts, even though they're not entirely a hive mind. And they're really, really not happy that you're here. I mean, all of the alien races on this galaxy, even Jaws people, are not super excited that you're here, but the Ket are really pissed off that you're here.
To them, we're the aliens.
Yeah, wow, deep. I guess the other thing about the Remnant that is the real bad part is there's only one person in your party who's an expert of the Remnant, and if you want to know what the fuck you're fighting, you have to talk to this one person, and that one person is Phoebe. And instead of having, I guess there are technically the same expected codex entries, but like a lot of her dialogue is just her telling you how excited she is that she did research about this specific remnant and what she thinks it means. And oh boy, for a franchise that prides itself on these interstitial character interactions between the big set pieces and story moments.
Yeah, it sucks. So on Eos, you eventually activate 3 old remnant tech pillars by playing Alien Sudoku. Who liked Alien Sudoku? Anyone?
It's not.
It sucks.
It sucks, but it's like hacking minigames kind of always suck. So
I would prefer a hacking minigame that goes much faster than trying to figure out a fucking Sudoku puzzle.
Yeah, it's great because it's Sudoku rules, but instead of numbers, they've given you alien symbols. So you have to just pay close attention because they are fucking alien symbols, and some of them look similar.
Yep.
Which is super annoying. You do Alien Sudoku 3 times, and then you get to go underground into the core of the planet where the good tech is. You do a dungeon in there. You reactivate the climate control on the planet.
This is also a Halo level. I forget which one.
Oh, yeah, the one where you're on the ring,
Yeah,
basically.
it doesn't
Before the
matter.
flood show up. Yeah. I know what you mean, though. It very
Mhm.
much feels like a Halo level.
Silent
And
cartographer? Are you talking about the silent cartographer?
I think that is
That
Silent
doesn't matter.
Cartographer.
But
Probably
let's keep going.
yes. If you're talking about a level from Halo 1, it's Silent Cartographer or it's the library
Mhm.
for two very different reasons.
Yeah. So you do that level, then you have to escape after you have activated the machine. You survive. Eos gets slightly more habitable. You get some colonists. You get to pick. Do you want to have the colonists be science or be violence? And whichever side you pick, everyone's mad at you. Because whoever you didn't pick, their relatives get pissed off that they were not picked. So
Yep.
there's no right choice. Then you go back and you find out, like you get jumped and you escape from the Ket by ending up on the Angara's homeworld, Aya, which is a fertile planet. And you convince them that you mean no harm and that you'll help them. And you get told there are missions you can do on a planet called Vold and a planet called Havarl. And you have to do both of those missions before you can progress the story. We went to Vold, which is the ice planet. Who enjoyed the ice planet? Yep, that's about right. No one
Yeah.
enjoyed the ice planet because it's awful.
No.
It's
cold.
bad.
Sam
Bad
let us
level.
know.
It
Yeah.
looks pretty sometimes.
Sometimes. And there's not weird technical glitches, yeah.
It
I
kind of
found
looks like the same map from the radiation planet you were just on.
yeah,
Oh,
except instead of radiation, it's cold, and cold does the same thing as radiation.
Yep.
So it's except I think maybe there's a little bit less traction for your vehicle, so it's more
Meh.
annoying to drive.
Oh, I love having to turn my vehicle into 4-wheel drive and it just goes way slower so I
Yep.
can go up a slope. See,
Yep.
say what you will about the Mako.
Yeah,
That thing could go up 90-degree walls.
Mm.
could if you believed it could go up any wall. Whereas this thing, you need to put it in 4-wheel drive, and then it just goes slower, and the boost isn't that fast, and it doesn't have guns, so driving around sucks, and the world is really big. After you do a few missions, and we haven't really discussed the mission structure at all because they all suck for the most
It's-
part.
It's a lot of like this started to be a bit of a crutch for BioWare with the Mass Effect series. There are a lot of big cinematic set pieces where it's like press button to turn thing on, now hold this position as waves of enemies attack you.
Or
Plastic.
go to place, pick up item, go to place, scan thing, come back. And that is kind of the structure of almost every mission in this game. It's all fetch quests all the way down. It's all the fastest thing to churn out from a game design perspective. Go to this stronghold, blow it up, come back. Go pick up this dead body, come back. And yeah, like you do that, you eventually get a mission to go save some high-ranking figure in the Angaran society. And what do we find out about the cat, Braden?
The cat are just Angara, but evil.
They get melted
And
into.
they get mutated into stupid-looking rubbery rock monsters.
I can't believe it.
They
Bad guys
did,
were us all along.
they did a Vulcan
Whoa.
versus Romulan thing. Like that's
Yeah.
what it is. And I don't know. It's not even like something that feels like impactful because it's like, okay, so we found out can we present this information to the Archon and this changes like our relationship with them and then like we can work cooperatively to deal with a common threat like the Remnant? No. Nope.
Just They want to unify everyone by making them all the same race. I assume that's where it's going.
I'm
They
not
haven't
going to
said that
spoil
explicitly
the
yet.
exciting main story of this game to you.
So yeah, that happened. And when we come back for part 2, we'll discuss the rest of this game.
Oh yeah, all of the loyalty missions.
Oh boy.
You know how all of the great character development really just comes forward to the fore.
Hey, Braden, at least there aren't embarrassing sex scenes that make you want to fucking blush and like become
Yeah,
a weird
who's
religious
to say?
zealot. Oh, wait.
I don't know. My writer already had 0G fun times with PB, so that's a thing that happened.
Already?
But everybody
Already?
hates
You
Ryder
already had
so much.
you already boned? You already
No
boned aliens?
strings. Some drop rider doesn't care about strings.
Okay.
Well,
That's really
then-
fast.
then you saw PB's full
No,
frontal
it's
boobie.
nope. That's later. You
Yeah,
get a
okay.
you can fool around in 0G, and then there's sex does not equal romance in the Mass Effect universe, as we all know.
Mhm.
No, of course
Uh-huh.
not.
So yeah, that's we'll get those exciting conclusions and the plot, and these planets. I got 2
Wait.
planets to 100% habitability, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Good work, Gino.
You filled up the bar.
Sure did.
We didn't do the other planet on this for this one.
No. We'll talk about the desert planet and the jungle planet.
Yeah, I did the
Yeah.
jungle one too.
I went to the jungle one for like 5 minutes, and I think I might have done it, but I don't know that I have. So if we could save it for the next time, it doesn't seem like it's very long.
So
No.
when are we gonna set things up so is that we can play some of this multiplayer together?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
servers aren't on.
Hey,
wanted
no,
to
they
ask,
are.
do they-
They are.
They are. Absolutely they are.
What?
Listen,
has
the
a
Mass Effect
prestige
3
mode.
multiplayer servers are still up. I played some of that early this year. Mass Effect 3 multiplayer is still pretty fun.
Yeah, what
But
if I
imagine
told
that,
you that
but worse.
even not only that, Gino, not only
And with worse
is
monetization.
all of that online still. I could still use a real world currency to buy Andromeda points.
Andromeda
Engage
points.
in the microtransactions and the multiplayer equipment packs and new character skins to play in the Andromeda multiplayer mode. $50 gets you 5,750 Andromeda points.
No.
12,000 Andromeda points is $100. I could spend 100 real American buckaroonies for 12,000 Andromeda points.
Yeah, but I mean, what's your soul worth? You know.
I have spent money on video games. I cannot imagine a worse way to spend any money. Like if I put $5 into it, it would be too much.
Oh,
But-
maybe someone will play that when Off the Deep End takes over part 2 of this.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Braden,
So
we're gonna
You're
finish it.
gonna finish it.
We're gonna do this.
Am I going to mainline the game? Perhaps.
And just because I don't know how many of the main podcast will join us, so if you mainline the story, it's south of 24 hours, or basically it's about 25 to 20-ish hours for Andromeda. If you wanted, I had to look this up. Now, how long to beat is a pretty unreliable thing for RPGs, but if you did even half of the side quests, that's going to add an additional 20 to 30 hours to your game. And I think the best completionist, like 100% playthrough I saw, was 95 to 92 hours.
All our listeners can go straight to hell. They do not pay us enough in Patreon.
No. Absolutely not.
I'm going to do some side quests, but I'm not going to do all of them. That's for sure. I'm exploring some of the nooks and crannies, but I will not do all of them. I refuse. There are some nooks too dangerous even for I. All right, so that's Mass Effect Andromeda Part 1. Thank you,
Oh, wait.
Pete. What?
But
What, Em?
There was
What?
there was one more.
really quick. There was one more thing. I forgot it in the moment. There's a cutscene that happens when you are when you first are going to all the other planets after picking up Jal, where you have to do like a rousing speech.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I have seen many BioWare protagonists, and absolutely none of them have a speech that falls this fucking flat. It's absolutely awful, and the only input you get is like a really half-assed like, can't we all just get along? Like
Yeah.
it's
Why does everyone hate Ryder so much?
every Ryder is so bad at this. Ryder is an awful protagonist. That's all I wanted to say.
But
That
he's
that moment,
vanilla boy for you to
You can
graft your
project.
projections on.
yeah, my projection is he sucks.
Project my hatred onto him.
Yeah. Oh
I mean,
boy.
that's the thing. Like, Ryder shouldn't be in charge. And
Yes.
so you've just got this character who has no gravitas, who is
Mhm.
forced into these situations because child of destiny. Like, not since Harry Potter have I met a less charismatic main character who you have to somehow deal with because they are the main character. Sorry.
How dare you bring Harry Potter into this podcast? This is a sacred space.
Sorry. When I think uncharismatic main character who you're supposed to project yourself onto, that's who I think of currently.
Mhm.
I'll look, it could be Ryder going forward.
Ryder, I'm planting my flag. Ryder is the worst BioWare protagonist.
We'll find out if Ryder improves as the AI slowly takes over his or her mind. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Em.
Thank you for torturing me. I do not want to play more of this game.
Thank you, ZP.
What kind of vehicles do Asaris drive?
Thank you, Braden.
Justy cars.
We got this. Please look forward to Kusolstice next week.
Look forward to the Solstice. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter for now. DeepListens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and DeepListensPodcast@gmail.com. And you can support the show on Patreon.com/DeepListens. And when you do, you get amazing content like what you just heard. Till next time, peace.
Break it down like